The development of the Americas is directly related to the force used by colonists from Europe prior to the 1600s. Because of this force, war broke out among many indigenous tribes and the well-organized forces from Spain. During these times of war, a vast diversity of tactics and weapons were used. Among these weapons was the macuahuitl. The macuahuitl was 3 to 4 feet long and 3 inches wide, with a groove along either edge, into which sharp-edged pieces of flint or obsidian were inserted and firmly placed into the grooves with some adhesive compound. The rows of obsidian blades were sometimes discontinuous, leaving gaps along the side, while at other times the rows were set close together and formed a single edge. Some forms also consisted of blades on one side, or some were two-sided and could be used for slashes, made in both directions, keeping the wrists facing the same way. Primarily, the macuahuitl was used for war and war only. The macuahuitl was such an effective weapon against the opposing forces that it was solely designed and used for war. The macuahuitl was made with lightweight, durable oak wood for a base and had carved and sharpened obsidian stone wedged into the sides of the base. This allowed the warrior to have a quick and powerful slashing motion. The deadly razor-sharp obsidian stones had a tearing effect on the victims, and often left obsidian in the flesh of the victims. Although the macuahuitl was one of the most effective weapons used by the Aztecs, it had some disadvantages. It lacked a front-pointed blade, which inhibited it from being a thrusting weapon. Although the obsidian blades were very sharp, they were also very skinny and brittle, and would break or become dull during a long battle. Throughout time, the macuahuitl has developed many interesting myths. While it is true that the macuahuitl was reportedly capable of chopping through entire necks of horses, it is unproven that the macuahuitl was used during sacrificial times to chop off arms and legs of the sacrifice. As well as this, over time the macuahuitl has interestingly developed into a much more advanced form, including sword-like carved wood with designs, piercing stones, and used with one hand, when in actuality it was a very plain weapon used for chopping that required the use of both hands. José de Acosta was a Jesuit from Spain who left for the New World in 1571. He gave a brief account of the macuahuitl in his book, Natural and Moral History of the Indians. He said, "Their weapons were sharp blades of flint set into opposite sides of a club, and this weapon was so fierce that they claimed that with one blow they could chop off a horse's head, cutting right through the neck." Francisco Hernández de Cordova was a Spanish conquistador who gave a very accurate description of the weapon. They can split a man in two with a single blow, provided this is the first blow, since after further blows are useless, such as the sharpness of this weapon and its fragility. Along with the macuahuitl, the Aztecs also wielded shields, helmets, and a variety of body armor. The shields tended to be made of wood, animal hide, or plaited palm leaves. The body armor was usually made of quilted cotton. The Aztecs made it by tightly stitching unspun cotton between two layers of cloth, and then sewing it into a leather border. When completed, the armor was usually 2 inches thick. Some warriors also wore armbands and greaves that were made of wood or bark. The helmets that were worn tended to be made of wood and bone. In some cases, actual skulls from wolves, jaguars, and pumas were worn as actual headgear. Another important aspect to Mexica battle tactics was their timing of attacks. For the most part, they would start battles at dawn, and the armies would disengage close to sunset. However, the Mexica would also go out on night assaults against nearby enemy camps that would have little communication with larger Spanish camps. The Mexica implemented many other weapons, not only the macuahuitl. The atlatl was a spear-throwing device for longer distant combat. An atlatl is a stick with a handle on one end and a hook that engages a light spear on the other. The flipping motion of the atlatl would propel a light spear much farther and faster than if it was thrown by hand. Another devastating ancient Mexica weapon, the sling, was made with fibers from the macuahuitl plant. The sling were used to send stones flying toward the enemy. They were thrown so powerfully and accurately that they could do significant damage to a soldier in full metal armor. The Spanish, on the other hand, had their own arsenal of weapons. The arquebus was a revolutionary weapon that changed the face of warfare in Mesoamerica. It was truly the first rifle to be used in battle, and the Aztecs felt the full brunt of its power. Along with the arquebus, the Spanish had other weapons that played a vital role in the conquest of the Aztecs. They had crossbows and plate armor, which protected them from spears and other stone weapons the Aztecs used in battle. The Spanish tactics played a huge role in defeating the Aztecs because they allowed for greater mobility and speed. The Spanish tactical system was known as tercio, which roughly translates to the word regiment, which is in the current military formation today. The makeup of the tactical system was 12 companies broken up into 250 soldiers each. This system was so effective because each tercio provided mutual support for the other. Even though the macuahuitl was so devastating, it could not prevent the Spanish onslaught that would soon consume all of Mesoamerica.